Welcome everybody, welcome back to ReZero episode 14 of season 3. Last time we had an amazing fight with Garfield and also a little bit of a fight between Al and Lust, but Garfield versus Corgan, I think that's his name, was one of the bigger ones and really well animated. I did actually ask some of my viewers who animated this because it reminded me of Jujutsu Kaisen. So somebody actually wrote to me, shout out to Jumper the Hero, who says Vincent Jansard animated some scenes in Jujutsu Kaisen and actually animated the Garfield versus Kurgan fight. Shout out to you, Vincent. Maybe we'll check out your Sakuga Boro at some point in time when I actually finish season 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen one day. It's been like Jujutsu Kaisen's mainly like I really enjoyed it, but not a lot of people on my channel have actually been watching it. And the second problem was that I had a lot to do in that time, and Jujutsu Kaisen had to be edited a lot because of copyright, but also because this is how I started doing the series, by editing out every various aspects of it. So maybe I'll try to finish that up at some point in time. We'll see when we can actually get to that. But shout out to Vincent for animating an amazing fight. Also shout out to Sade8586, I think, who is saying that a lot of people actually in the whole amazing, cool animation stuff, a lot of people fail to notice that Garfield is breaking 2 of his arms. Right. That Garf blocks 2 available arms of Kurgan and breaks them doing so with no other option. He kills him by biting out a portion of his neck/throat, which is absolutely metal. That is really heavy. But that's also a very fitting thing for a tiger, right, to do, and we're all about the tiger symbolism in this specific episode, so that's cool. As for what's coming up, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Wilhelm versus Theresia, and probably more of their backstory, maybe, if the past is anything to go by. So that would be really cool to see more about them, and maybe a little bit about why she landed here in the first place, because last thing we knew is she was fighting against the whale and lost. So how did she make it here? Is it actually Theresia, or is there like some kind of like weird image of her, or what is happening, right? You know what I mean? So that would be interesting. I do wonder if actually Wilhelm gets to know what happened, or if only the audience gets to know it. That's always a difference that's in here. And hey, we're at episode 14. That means it's only, after this episode, it's only 2 episodes left for this core, or for this like season, kind of. I don't know if the next thing is going to be called core 3 or season 4, but either way, I'm really excited about the next season. I ain't gonna lie, it was very enjoyable to read it, and I do remember a lot of the parts vividly, but I also think that this is one of the more interesting stories that are gonna come up in terms of how it's gonna be displayed and animated, locations, characters, all this stuff. It's gonna be really cool. So there's something to definitely look forward to, and we're gonna check that out when it comes out, don't you worry, and analyze it as much as I have time to analyze it. But yeah, let's jump into it. I'll be making a quick scene transition. Why am I even saying that? You just roll the film. Just roll the film. Right. I've got myself some pizza. Don't worry though. I'm not gonna eat too much during the reaction. It's gonna be a Patreon exclusive mukbang content. The crust ASMR. Right, boys. ReZero episode 14 of season 3. Starts in 3, 2, 1. You know the deal. We're gonna sync after. Sorry. Gonna sync after the OP. 3, 2, 1. Love at first sight, huh? Interesting. We're hearing from her perspective. Bros being rude. She's got a good poker face if it actually was love at first sight. Or maybe she meant the flowers. I doubt it. And we remember that from season 1, don't we? And we're back! Different atmosphere. Oh, there's so much emotion in it for him, right? I think it's really cool how different a sword fight is from like a fist fight as we had it earlier with Garfield. Or like a martial arts fight. And the wound opened back up. That is insane. Alright, mommy. Theresia aging like a fine wine. Thank you, show, for that representation. Oh, that was a cool move. It's crazy how much you see like her like deadpan eyes in contrast to what Kurgan had. That was such bad timing. Oh, where's Reinhardt? I mean, this could be happening at the same time as the rigorous fight, so... Ah, oh, this is so unfortunate. Holy shit. Now we're all together. All three of them. Ooh, is he gonna be able to draw the sword? I knew it. Oh, there's so much emotion in that. Yeah, your duty, right? Oh no, okay. But could you have done it then? Oh.
ここにいるのはただの偽物だ。
One swipe. Is that it? Holy shit.
牽制の加護がこの身に宿ったのは私が12歳の頃だった。
Like Reinhardt, very early. 12 years. That's like too young of an age to receive it, is it? And she felt something was different. She knew. And that's, I guess, their father.
やはり間違いない。次の牽制はお前だ。
But she didn't want to, right?
剣を持ちなさい。テレシア。
兄さんは私の何倍も努力していた。
Oh, there's so much Reinhardt parallels.
剣の鍛錬を怠ったことはなかった。そうやって頑張る兄さんが私は大好きだった。
剣を持ちなさい。テレシア。
兄さんの夢を私が壊した。
Something that wasn't even what you wanted to do.
2年後、王国最大にして最悪の内戦。
Like the demi-human warrior. 14, holy shit, what do you do?
Teresia, 怖いのかい？わかるよ。だってお前は虫も殺せないような優しい子だったから。
He gets it.
2年前、お前に負けて悔しかった。でも、俺はやっぱり剣が好きだったんだよ。
Yeah, I mean...
アストレア家に生まれて、弟たちがいて、妹のお前がいて、感謝している。剣に感謝しているんだ。
兄さん。
お前が嫌だって、怖いって思うんなら、俺が守ってやる。俺はお前の兄貴なんだから。お前が戦う必要なんてどこにもないんだよ。
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
But I assume he died.
私は剣を一度も振らなかった。振ることができなかった。それどころか戦場に立つことさえも。
That is not weakness.
そして兄さんは私の代わりに先陣を切り死んだ。それでも私が剣聖の座から降りることは許されなかった。剣聖の存在は王国の精神的な支柱だ。私の敵前逃亡の事実は隠蔽され、戦いは続いた。カルラ、カジレス、
All of them.
私の兄弟も先代の剣聖だった王子様も戦場で命を落とした。
剣を持ちなさい、テレシア。次の牽制はお前だ。あの時お前は思ったはずだ。なんて好きだらけなんだと。剣を持ちなさい、テレシア。
Flower imagery.
私が剣に、私が剣を持たなきゃ。
女が朝っぱらからこんなとこで何してやがんだ。
Maybe in the beginning, he reminded her of her brothers.
誰が。
お前が剣を振る理由は俺が継ぐ。お前は俺が剣を振る理由になればいい。
And it was enough for a while.
ねえ、花は好き？
嫌いじゃなくなった。
どうして剣を振るの？
お前を守るために。
Such a weird
私のこと
romance.
別れ。
But it works, right?
言葉にしてほしいことだってあるのよ。
ああ、いつか気が向いた時にな。
結局その質問だけは堅くなに答えてくれなかったけれど、それからはずっと幸せでいろいろなことがあったけれど、それでも間違いなく。
Ooh, what was that part of the story? Hello?
私は反対だ。お前は何を考えている？
もう決めたことよ。
ハインケルか。あのバカ野郎。くだらない入れ知恵で。
それを私やあなたに言う資格はないわ。突然現れた白芸の討伐。でも王女様が誘拐されている今、この駅士団長の元気のあなたが動くわけにはいかない。だから牽制である私が動く。
Split up.
あの子の言うことも理にかなっている。
牽制の称号などお飾りだろう。
そうね、あなたがそうしてくれた。ビルヘルム、私のこと愛してる？
なテレシア。
死神の加護。これであなたは私を追ってこれない。それをしたら
Cruel.
傷が塞がらないんだから。
私は血が止まらなくてもお前を追うぞ。
それをされたら意味がなくなるじゃない。大丈夫。私を誰だと思ってるの？
But she wasn't.
次に強い最強の剣士よ。たとえお飾りでもね。
50近くにもなって若者に張り合っても
余計なことは言わないの。愛してるわ、ビルヘルム。ええ、それでいいの。その答えは次に戻ってきたら、あの日聞けなかった言葉を聞かせてくださいね。
And back to the whale, I guess. Back to the whale, where she fought this time. So what happened? Because she was strong. Ooh, interesting. Like with the hair tied back, she almost looks as young as she used to. I wonder if, like, if that means, like, that the body that she has in the fights in the present time, if that means that that's just like her 50-year-old self. And that was the moment that Reinhardt received his blessing, right? Why now?
牽制のカゴがラインハルト。あら、こんなところに女性が一人。
Not you.
欲しいのですね。
Not you.
嫌われてしまいましたね。縛られなくてもいいの。願わくば剣以外にも出会いがある人生を私のように。あなたを理解したいのです。
Holy shit. What power is that, right? And why did they know each other? The last moment.
情けない顔。
テレシア、私は
ねえ、ヴィルヘルム。
お前に言わなくてはならないことがある。
If nothing else, she didn't age since then, so...
私は口下手で自分の考えもうまく伝えられず、お前にも苦労を。だから20年以上もお前に一度も20年不安にさせたかもしれん。だが私は
This is so well done.
バカな人。本当に気づいてなかったの？あなたはずっと言ってくれていたわ。
No words necessary.
あなたの目が、あなたの声が、あなたの態度が、あなたの行いがずっと。
私はお前を。
あなたは私を愛してる。最初から最後まできっと恵まれた人生だったわ。たくさんの人たちに助けられて、あなたと出会って、あなたたちなら大丈夫って信じてるから。ずっとずっと愛しているから。最後に一つだけ聞けなくて心残りなことがあったの。実は一目惚れだったんです。なんて知ったら、あなたはどのくらい驚いてくれましたか？
Because he didn't know, right? Ooh, this episode felt so short. It felt so short. Are we gonna get a stinger? Yeah, a big one. Alright, let's have it. Alright.
これで満足か。
満足とは？
とぼけるなよ。見たままだろうが。これで名実ともに剣聖の座はお前のものだよ。おめでとう。先代を死なせて加護を奪ったって噂も疑いようのない事実ってわけだ。満足か？満足だろおい。
何をおっしゃられているのか意味がよくわかりません。
すかした顔してるんじゃねえぞ、クソガキが。次乗るんじゃねえぞ。お前が何を言ったところで俺が見たものは変わらねえ。お前が
I think it's mostly pity.
ストレアをぶった切ったってのは事実だ。公表するぞ。世間に言いふらして誰もお前を剣聖だなんて認めないようにしてやる。何のかんの言ってお前は剣聖って名誉が手放せねえだろうが、肉親を切り殺しておいて剣聖。 王国の剣笑わせるなこの人殺しが。
副団長、何度おっしゃられても意味がわかりません。勘違いです。今の敵は秘術によって動かされていただけの屍です。仙台県政、おばあ様であったはずがありません。
最後のあれはなんだ。俺はお前を恨めしそうに睨んで、あれがおふくろで母上でないな。
もうやめろハインケル。
やめろって。親父、あんたそれでいいのかよ。こいつは。
やめろやめろハインケル、やめろ。
Yes, put her to rest.
来るな
Closure.
ラインハルト。
はい。
祖母をテレシアを切ったことを後悔しているか。 いいえ、僕は正しいことをした。そのことを悔やんだりはしない。そうだな、その通りだ。お前は正しい。私が間違っている。だからお前と話すことはもう何もない。この戦い、あなたの力が必要な場面は他にもありましょう。どうか、剣聖ラインハルト殿。
親父殿、一人でなんて。
私の心配は不要だ。お前は自分の安全だけ考えていればいい。それでいい。
なんだよ。なんだよ。なんだよ。なんだ。なんだ。くそ。なんだよ。くそ。
Where do I go with this feeling?
どいつもこいつも。どいつもこいつも死んじまえ。死んじまえ。
That's fine, right? It is fine. It... I mean, what do you say to that? It is what it is, boys. I actually will have to open that back up again and boom, put it on the... No, wait. Now, put it on the screen and roll it back. Roll it all the way back. That's... I ain't gonna lie. I think that was one of the best episodes of this entire season. They really nailed the emotional impact of this one. I really love that. Like, there's so much emotional weight in that, and I do think it comes in part from the perspective of Theresia, right? Because it's her telling the story. Almost like she's waking up from a bad dream, right? One thing I think is very interesting is somehow Theresia and Pandora seem to know each other. At least like with Theresia looking at her and then the few words they exchange and then her just moving for her, right? Seems almost like they fought before or something. And she recognized her as an enemy immediately, so it's like... But that started Wilhelm and Theresia. Amazing shot, by the way. Right, like how we are over his shoulder and like everything is really big, right? In this perspective, it's a very unique shot right over his shoulder. But for her, it was love at first sight, which we didn't know, right? In the beginning, we thought like, hey, why did she fall for him? Because it was kind of weirdly shown in season 1, in my opinion. Like weirdly shot as well, where it's like he almost seems a little bit misogynistic and whatnot, where it's like somebody with your face shouldn't be holding that weapon and whatnot. But if you go through the core of that, I feel like his expression always was, I can read in your face that you would envision for yourself a different future than what you want. And in that sense, it's almost like he's actually advocating for her to fulfill her own dreams, right? In her own nature. In her own nature, maybe a kind face like hers, right? Although maybe he hasn't expressed it well. Or maybe I'm totally wrong and he's kind of a little bit like chauvinistic or whatever. But I feel like maybe it's like a kind face like yours. The way I look at you and I see you don't want to kill people. You don't want to hurt people. As her brother said in the flashback, she wouldn't hurt a fly. But she is met with this incredible burden. She's met with this incredible burden. And she meets upon a young man, very stern, very, very stuck up, right? Very hard to convey his emotions. Very knightly. A little bit like her brothers. It seems that way to me, right? Like her brothers had the same vibe. And he's yearning for the sword. Because for him it's a means to protect people and things that he is fond of, right? A certain world that he deems worthy of protecting. I mean, why do soldiers take up a weapon, right? I mean, oftentimes it's obviously getting conscripted or getting nationalized or whatever, but it is sometimes also just, hey, if worse comes to worst, I want to be able to defend myself, right? I want to be able to defend myself and the people that I care about. I don't want to be helpless in the face of oppression, of war. And we go on with a not as impressive of a fight as we had with the Garfield fight, obviously, but also a very different one. Ooh, really cool angle here. A very different one, because sword on sword is different than sword on fists or martial arts heavy or magic, because Garfield has been fighting a lot with his earth magic and with his fists and his feet and whatnot, right? Very acrobatic, very like, but very brawly as well. And Kurgan with the 8 arms, obviously very brawly as well, although he had the swords, but this is like more power, right? And here we go grace. Here we go like the traditional art of fencing, because this is kind of the rules we often play by when we display sword fights in media, which is kind of like fencing a little bit, just altered. This is oftentimes not how it would have been. You take the sword, they're heavy, right? They're heavy, and you're just like, right? Like different stances, obviously, depending on what sword you're using and what kind of technique you have. But, yeah. And the scar opened up again, right? Because he is in her presence. And holy shit, did she look good? That is something the light novel did not have. They had an illustration of her at I think the white whale subjugation, which I was like, she looks super young. It almost looks like she's not 50, but maybe she just kept up really well. Interesting, like the sword getting into the camera, basically. We're having a lot of dynamic movements and rotational shots, which I really like, because with rotational shots, you can often just like give the viewers a sense of the scope and have like almost like a slow-mo effect, and then you can suddenly speed up the rotation and also the movement of the characters, and then emulate that people are moving very quickly towards one another, that there's like speed in that, right? It's really cool how we can play with these movements, basically, where we have like he's running here, right? Like 1, 2, right? Same, just the particle effects are different, and then he moves, which is again 1, 2, and we have a slight movement again, right? Like this is not a movement, this is just the same character. 1, moment, 1, 2. Right. 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, because it's getting quicker, right? Like how do you animate? Do you animate on one frame? Do you animate on 2 frames? Do you animate on 3? Some of the most dynamic, cool fights. One fight I'm thinking from the top of my head is a fight at the end of Osama Ranking, right? Ranking of Kings, where you have like a giant set pieces and whatnot, and structures falling, and our characters moving dynamically within that. Some of the best fights actually move variable frame animations, where we do change the pace at which animations change, like details within an animation change to signify a movement, to signify different speeds at which things are moving, right? Like, for example, 2 characters moving asynchronously to kind of mimic that they are trying to match one another in their pace. Or like a character moving very quickly towards something because they're running away from something else, and then an obstacle comes in their way and they have to stop short, so they put their foot forward, and they try to break their pace, and in that moment we're actually animating on more still frames, basically, right? We're waiting more frames until we change the frame again to signify a movement, in order to emulate this blocking and being like suspended in a certain point in space, and then going on again, right? And when we fluidly do that, it looks so gorgeous. It looks so great to animate that. There's like very quick movements here, right? Turning. And we're having such creative angles where she's like blocked, or where she's like going in, and we have the block, and she's using that with her like shoulders basically to push herself off and get behind him. But he's quick enough to turn around with the pirouette and actually make up for that. And I think it's really cool that we have a lot, for Wilhelm, we have a lot of the fencing moves. He has a lot of the, right, like the stabbing motions that often get ignored when it comes to animating sword fights or displaying sword fights, I have to say. Yeah, but yeah, Heinkel comes into the situation. He interrupts just at the wrong moment. Wilhelm gets distracted. Suddenly he is disabled and can't really fight on anymore. Heinkel himself absolutely flabbergasted to seeing his supposed mother. But then Reinhardt comes in, and we do have the face-off. Again, like, look at that structure, that like fallen over, not fallen over, like the structure here. It's clearly a divisive line that is dividing Theresia on the left and Reinhardt on the right, right? In space, dividing them. Even though it's like all behind them, but it's like implying that division between the two parties. Almost like parents and children or grandchildren, right? We have Theresia and Wilhelm on one side, although Wilhelm is like front and just looking at the scene, but like he's on the left side with Theresia, and on the right side there's Reinhardt and Heinkel. Heinkel confused, but Reinhardt steadfast. He just came out of the fight with Regulus. He was victorious, he knows what his duty is, and now we draw the sword. Draw the sword, right? The sword can only be drawn if there's a worthy opponent. It shows that that it is at least the echo of Theresia that is standing there, and that she's powerful enough to actually require the sword to be drawn. Which wasn't the case for Regulus. Wasn't the case for Elsa. Which I think might have been the case for Puck. I think it has been the case for Puck, actually, in that alternate scenario we saw in Season 2. He screams, it's like, this is my Theresia. For him it is. And it actually is, right? Like, and what I'm asking here is, he wanted to face her, and he thought it's his duty to defeat her, but my question is, would he have been able to defeat her with that attitude, with that emotional baggage? And I don't think so. I think Reinhardt is in the unique position, and only now I think he's in the unique position because of Subaru and his other friends, maybe even felt the people that were behind him and that believed in him, including especially Subaru, who has been a good friend to him, that he can face these demons of his past. Because this is like a person that is his grandmother, that he feels personally responsible for killing. Because he received that blessing the moment she was on that expedition. And the story the entire time was she died because she lost the blessing. Which wasn't the case, as we can clearly see, but the question is, and I think maybe Reinhard is kind of conceptualizing that in his mind here. Wasn't she dead all of these years, right? Because yes, she existed, but almost like in a prison of a body. I mean, we saw her coming to it, basically. But it almost feels like her memories end where she attacks Pandora and gets downed by her. And they begin again when she opens her eyes to old Wilhelm, saying goodbye to her and telling her he loves her. So it almost feels like all of this time, it's like she was in a big dream, right? Like a nightmare, where she felt like things were happening at the periphery, almost like she's in a coma, basically. And she's definitely perceiving some of these things, but it's like she is all the way down here and all the way up there, like in a faraway TV screen, she sees like the things that her corpse is doing, basically. Like she's trapped in her own mind, in her own body, basically. Not perceiving it directly, but more like a faraway thing, like a hazy dream. I killed her 15 years ago. That guilt's still shining through. But him at least accepting it to a degree, right? Like being somewhat fine with it, even though that guilt still needs to be processed. But yeah. Alright, then we have the final standoff, but there's not a lot happening. Oh, I love that shot. It's so cool. Right, the rotational angles we use, like the distorted proportions, the way the sword is so round and he's not hesitating, and then we just go in and he's like, Ovarida, it's over. And that's the moment when the life returns to her eyes. It's like the entire spell is removed from her corpse because the corpse is useless now. And we go back into her life story. Uncle having the Sword Saint stuff. Her defeating her brother. Despairing. Like literally despairing. Not only at the fact that she has that responsibility, right, of fighting people, killing people, which is absolutely against her nature, but also because she's taken this big part of her brothers, like her big brothers and also all of her brothers' identity away from them. Because this is what they trained for, this is what they worked for. And we have the bloodiest or the greatest and most horrific civil war in their kingdom, the demi-human war. And she can't deal with that. The killing, right, of other beings is too much of a soft soul for that, right? I mean, this is the reason why exceptions for the army exist, or for people who are like, I can't kill people. I'm sorry. Because those people would be useless in a war as well. Because they wouldn't take up a weapon, right? They would probably desert or run away, or they would just cower somewhere, right? Like, who are you to tell somebody that they have to kill someone, right? Afraid. At first I was like, doesn't he understand, right? Does he think that she's just afraid to fight? But no. He understands her perfectly well. He's like, after all, you were the sweet sort of girl who wouldn't even harm a fly. And he feels responsible for that. He's like, I'll stand in for you, right? And he pays that price. I mean, gladly, I guess, because that is just his nature. He would have fought either way, but maybe if she fought, she would have been able to prevent them from dying. And that's the point. But then again, she would have killed countless demi-humans, right? She would have slaughtered them. So in which case, in which scenario would there have been more people that died? I don't know. But maybe in the other scenario, she would have been the one to slaughter the demi-humans, and then the demi-humans would have unequivocally completely lost. I don't remember completely if they lost, but I think they lost, right? But they did lose, like, in a very bloody and very drawn-out war, so they showed that they actually can stand in for some of their like their rights, basically, right? And at some point they were defeated, but it's different than being just completely defeated right off the bat. And I think if Teresia was part of that, they would have probably. I love this shot so much. It reminds me of some of like the Fate stuff, where it's like Saber in the middle of like a battlefield or whatever, but it's also cool because we do have that slight bend of the lens, basically. It's almost like the entire world is like meeting at that specific point, right, like in the space right between the two of them. And the entire sky is bearing down on them. And all of the brothers and the uncle, they are all dead. They all died. Back then you must have thought, he's so full of openings, right? To have a talent that you are technically so unwilling to use because you know that there's a lot of horrible suffering that will stem from that. But also to be in between that rock and that hard place, to know that if you don't take it up, there's gonna be suffering as well and pain. Maybe even for people very dear and close to you. Yeah, this reminds me so much of Fate, with like the whole sword stuck in the ground. Although that is a like very common Japanese motif, to be fair. And I love this transition so much, right? Like it's this, I take up the sword, and out of like a burning battlefield with like corpses and like a wasteland, I do hold the sword up to defend beauty, right? And I guess that is the duty she saw in this moment, where she was like, I guess I'll have to defend this, right? I have no choice but to. And this is when she met him, and we arrive at the point where he's like, I tried everything I can, I tried so hard, and managed to, with probably the last strength I got, like with the maximum strength I got, to defeat you in order to take this burden away from you, because I know you don't want to. And this is a perfect example of context, right? In another context, what he's doing here might seem chauvinistic, or it might seem misogynistic, right? It might seem overbearing and like he wants to take agency away from her and wants to tell the woman what to do, basically, right? Creepy, controlling, weird, right? You don't need to take up the sword. I just defeated you and dominated you and took away everything from you. But in the context of what she wants, and assuming that he recognized what she wanted, which is he recognized that she is not the type of person who wants to cause pain and suffering, who wants to hurt people, who wants to fight people. In the context of that specifically, and knowing what her will and what her desires and what her wishes are, it becomes a romantic gesture. And this is, I think, what was missing in season 1, the missing piece that we had. Because this makes this story a beautiful romantic story between two people who found each other, right? Who were there for each other and loved each other. As opposed to something that you're not really sure about if the dynamic was alright in the first season. I think like in the novel it was actually explained much earlier, and as a result of that, the entire inception of the thing was different. I mean, people loved Wilhelm either way, right? He had such a honorable and upstanding character and was so good to Subaru that people, I think, looked past that. I don't know if I understand that completely, if that's completely all right, and did just give Willem the benefit of the doubt, which is great. That you have a character that is well defined enough to actually have people be like, okay, go out on a limb and be like, okay, I trust Willem. I think he was well-meaning at the very least, right? But now we have the full context, and it makes so much more sense. Because for her, that is the romantic gesture, right? And I think it's also beautiful how we have this scene. I think it was similar in season 1, but how we have this scene represented, although this is like an official thing, an official duel. It's like in like a court hall or whatever, nobody's around. Is that really how it went down? No, it isn't. This is to symbolize that in that moment, this moment was there just for them, right? Like nothing else. The entire world around them didn't exist. It was just them. That's like a metaphor. That's not how it really went down. I think that's great that we have that. I guess that's Reinhard being born and Willem training with him, which is so fucking cute. And then we have MILF Theresia, which is, holy shit. I don't know what happened with Reinhard here, but it looks tragic and sad, and what is this? What is this? What is this story? Maybe it's in one of the, whatchamacallit, one of the side stories, right? One of the X. I'll need to, like, somebody tell me if that's a story that I can actually read, because that's super interesting and sounds super sad as well. That Reinhard did have somebody that he probably loved, maybe? I mean, I don't think it's a sister. I think it's like because he's like introducing them, right? And she's like, oh god, my son has found somebody. And she looks like she's dying here, which is sad. Sad as all hell. And then we have oh no, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Okay, no. I misunderstood that, right? It's not Reinhard, he looks so much like Reinhard. It's Heinkel, of course. Yeah, it's Heinkel. It's not Reinhard, of course. He looks a little bit different. And this is Reinhard's mother, who apparently died at a young age, which is sad. Sad as all hell. Maybe we even got to know that? I don't know. Like, I forgot. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And that is supposedly Reinhard, right? And Grandpa and Grandma are gonna take care of Reinhard, right? And then we have the discussion with the white whale and the royal family missing and them having to decide on duty. I love that they're standing like back to back, because it shows like she's looking towards the light, right? She's on the positive side and he's like, no, I'm against it. And he's on the negative side, on like the dark side. And then we are like back to, it's such good like framing. And she stands up and is actually coming towards him, appealing to him, and like letting him turn around to her basically and open up to her argument. And she knows that when she puts the charms on him, he is just too distracted, and he's just too queasy to really, or he's too weak to talk back to her continuously. He's gonna be the one who gives up in the end. And she heard him. She was like, well, now you can't follow me. And he's like, I gotta follow you anyway. If I bleed to death, I don't care. He's like, that's not the point, is it? And we say our like promises and whatnot. Well, holy shit, you lucked out, man. And we have the white whale confrontation. See, she almost looks like she did when she was a lot younger. So I'm like, somebody clear that up for me. Is like her current self, right? Her corpse self, basically, the reanimated corpse. Is that basically her at 50 years, or is it somewhat almost artificially de-aged basically to her younger self. Because I can't clearly tell. Here she looks a little bit older. I can see that she looks a little bit older, especially in the face, if we look at that. For a sec here, she looks older, definitely, than her previous self that we saw in season 1 and like in the earlier flashback parts. But she's still super young. So I'm not sure if this is how she looks in the flashback right now, and then this is present time her, or if in present time she looks more like her younger, like 20-something-year-old self. Also, this dude, he was in season 1, he was one of the old guys who went with Willem to actually defeat the White Whale, so shout out to you, my dude. And this is when she... I do wonder if Pandora actually made something into reality that in that moment the divine blessing was passed on. Or if she cannot affect that. That's also possible, because we know the divine blessing is some kind of like almost godlike thing, right? Like the world soul basically decides, hey, you get this blessing, you get that blessing, right? So it's possible that this even like that is even out of the scope of Pandora. Either way, she was at the right place at the right time. I wonder what that bracelet is that she has. That is like, it almost looks like one of the like a monk bracelet or something, right? Like a prayer bead or something. Either way, like, let me know. A lone woman out here, and she looks up. How very brave you must be, and she draws the sword. I see you dislike me now. You dislike me now. So either it's a mistranslation, or it feels like she's like, oh, now you dislike me. After we've met the last time. Right? Like something like that. It feels like that, but I could be wrong. She picks up a sword. She drops the... Wait. Why does she drop the... Oh, she can't draw it. Pandora isn't strong enough for the dragon sword. I mean, obviously her world reality bending powers might not count as strength in that sense, right? Like no fighting power in that sense. That might be a possibility, that it's just raw fighting strength, and that obviously Pandora doesn't have fighting strength. She just has insane like reality bending powers. But she can't draw it, so she picks up another sword. I wonder if the dragon sword would have killed Pandora, technically. Love that shot with like the pupil. I mean, this is a classic, right? I want to understand you. Creepy as all hell, as always. And something about her being like, I want to understand you, either what she says or one of her powers that we don't know about, is dropping her absolutely into death or into hypnosis / or into coma or into mindlessness, right? Maybe she's been a puppet since then, which is crazy, because like the implication is she falls and she's like, Willem, and she's like, and then she wakes up, and this is when she wakes up. So it's like, you look miserable, and she immediately knows who it is. And this scene was done so beautifully, right? How we focus on the tears, like, Willem barely ever cries, so this is like super emotional. The music was perfect, the way we focus on their facial features. This has been his closure, which I am super happy about. My life was blessed. And she's saying that to herself, I think, not to him. I think it's very interesting how how different people are reacting to this, right? Heinkel's first reaction is externalizing, right? He's like, see you killed, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna tell on you, you bastard, right? That's his first thing. Because he doesn't want to think it's real at first, right? And the second instinct is he doesn't want to feel that pain, right? Or confront any of that, right? Any of these realities and possibilities. So he's shoving it all away from himself. And the best thing he can do that is by hurting somebody who is connected to it, which in this case is Reinhard, who has always kind of been the target because he was blamed for her death, because he received the blessing in that moment, right? And he's giving himself a lot of shit for it. Even Wilhelm, in a moment of weakness, gave him shit for it, and Heinkel definitely blamed him for it, because he couldn't confront that thought that nobody was responsible for it. And I think he never got over his mom dying. Maybe also just because like his wife died, right? His wife died and then his mom died, and it's like the women in his life basically just keep dying. He feels more than anything like a super tragic character, right? Because like I think at this point in time, Reinhard, even Wilhelm, they don't feel, I mean maybe Wilhelm still, right? But they don't feel animosity towards Heinkel, or like hate or anything. Like more than anything, I think they feel pity, because it's a pitiful display what he's showing, right? And you do see that he's hurting, that he's just trying to shove all of that pain away from himself and not think about the fact that he's hurting so badly. Whoops. When she was glaring reproachfully at you and me, it almost feels like a projection of his own guilt, right? I wasn't good enough, right? I didn't receive the blessing and couldn't like go on that expedition. Because he didn't receive the blessing as well, right? That's also a form of guilt. It's like, I wasn't good enough to receive that blessing. My grandson had to get it at the age of like 12 or whatever. And because it happened at that inopportune moment, my mother died. And it's kind of my fault because I wasn't good enough, right? I think it's very interesting how Wilhelm is like, do you regret killing your grandmother? Because earlier, like, Reinhard was like, yeah, it's just a corpse, whatever. I killed her, like, years ago. So he acknowledged killing her in a way, but I think Wilhelm asked about today, right? Do you regret killing her right now? And that's the thing. Because, like, I don't think he's asking about back then, because that is something that he always felt like was unfair to put onto him. So what he's saying is, do you regret killing her right now? And he's like, no, it was my duty. Not like, I mean, it was necessary. And Wilhelm has his emotional side, and he has his rational side, like his prideful, his knight side, right? And his rational side knows that in this fight it was integral that they win, and that this helped their camp, that it helped everybody, right? It helped save lives. They defeated an enemy here that potentially could have destroyed a lot of the city, or even more than was already destroyed, killed a lot of people. He knows that it was important and that it was necessary. But he also has his emotional side, where he's like, I can't deal with all of these swelling emotions that I have right now. The sadness, the vulnerability, right? All of these things. I need time to process it. And he understands that. So he's like, then I have nothing more to say to you. Turns his back. But the voice isn't scornful, the voice isn't judgmental, it's leave me to myself, right? I'll need to deal with this on my own, right? I need to process this, and then we can get together again and talk. You are right and I am wrong. Which almost is like an apology to what he previously, like way back when, confronted him with when he was a child, right? Like the blame he put on him. He's like, you are right, I am wrong. Like my feelings of like that, me being hurt and like being unsatisfied with you killing her and feeling that pain of her being killed here. I know it's wrong because first of all, it's a relief for her anyway, right? She's been freed more or less. She's had closure as well. And we had that opportunity to talk for a couple of seconds before she passed away. And second of all, it was needed for the victory of all of this, right? To defend the people. Your strength will surely be needed elsewhere in this battle. Very interesting angle. And he's like, don't worry about me, Heinkel. Worry about yourself. It's fine. And Heinkel is so confused. He's like, oh, you, fuck you. Right? Because he has that feeling too, right? It's his mother. And all this animosity, all this frustration, this anger, this sadness. He doesn't know. He doesn't know how to deal with it. He's not the kind of person who knows how to deal with it. Yeah, that was ReZero. Episode 14. Great episode. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think, like I said, in my opinion, one of the best directed episodes of the season. Like, very emotional. We had some fights, right? We had some cool moments, and then we had some really important, like, character development for all of the Reinhardt, the Van Astrias. And in the end, we also had a very emotional moment of closure for Wilhelm and for Theresia, and the bow on their story by telling her perspective as well, right? Rounding the whole thing up. Beautiful. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. If you want to see me reacting to the next core or the next season of ReZero as well. And yeah, I'll be very curious what you have to write down in the comments. I do hope I get some comments. So I'll see you next time.